All right, what's going on, Jesse? How are you?
How much, Ryan?
Hey,
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on. I thought it would be great just to, have a recorded interview. We've talked a little bit offline about some different things that you guys do over there at My Credit Guy, and I thought, man, there's stuff that in this industry I know that sometimes I just don't realize, we know what we know, right? So we got to get the word out. We got to let consumers know what's available out there. And I think sometimes there's a stigma with credit repair. It's like, I got to have like my credit's got to be in the trash to go see somebody there. They're going to charge me an arm and a leg. It's super slow. It never does anything. But that's not always the case. And there's a lot of things that we can do, sometimes quickly to help kind of rejuvenate or repair certain things on there. Um,
hmm
what comes that you've helped a ton of people lately? So what comes to mind? Do you have a story or two that maybe we can kind of touch on and kind of like shed some light on what you guys actually do over there?
Yeah, so what's really cool about what I do is that I get to see a lot of, or really all of the success stories that come through when we're turning a client, right, with improved credit back to a loan officer. And we're trying to capture those in kind of a story version of start to finish. And most recently, the one on the top of my head is we've got a guy that had decent credit up into the point where he goes to apply for a mortgage. Everything looks good. He can move forward with a pre-approval. But in that time that he's scoping out different areas of where he wants to consider purchasing, kind of surveying different options of what's available in his price range before he even really steps into a house. There's some things from his past that came kind of to surface, and when the loan officer had to re-pull credit once we were working to issue pre-approval, or the either that or the credit report had expired and they're getting to the point where they've found something, they're going to move forward with funding the loan. There was actually three collections that he completely forgot about, previous bills that popped up. And it was just brokenhearted because the framework of that loan that was originally, kind of like mapped out wasn't working anymore with the credit score decrease that took place because of those two collections, or excuse me, three collections. And so we were able to, fortunately, and I think I mentioned the story to you the other day when it first came up. I think that's when the last meeting that we had. But I don't like to promote our service that this is the standard, but these are definitely things that happen. We were able to settle, get confirmation of a removal, right? Agreement to remove the collection from credit, get documentation, and submit it to the bureaus, all in a matter of uh, like two weeks. And then at that 3 week point, we were able to repull credit to see that they had been removed.
Wow.
And obviously, with that credit score increase, and again, it changes the outlook of the loan option at that point.
Yeah, like in a scenario like that, you basically are kind of down and out, right? I mean, that those collections could have potentially moved the credit score, 60, 80, 100 points sometimes,
But
and
yeah,
completely out of contingent for whatever loan they were seeking, and maybe even just kind of threw a grenade into the whole process anyways. There's loan programs
yeah,
that just won't let you proceed if you have that kind of thing on your credit. So to be able to remove that and allow somebody to continue to move forward, that's amazing.
yeah. I think in his situation, what it was is that he still could get approved. But there was two scenarios. One, or it was either or. It was either, at the increased rate, the payment just was not going to be within his budget, or that it decreased the amount that he could borrow, and it took him out of being approved for enough to actually follow through with the purchase of the home that he picked out. So there was a little bit of a soul crusher there for a little bit, but we made quick work of that scenario.
Oh,
We've
that's
got
awesome.
endless success stories related to that, and that really is kind of one of the things that we pride ourselves on is that the final this is what can happen, and we're so forthcoming with those stories just because when we're meeting people that have credit challenges, they're usually thinking that it's going to be some unsurmountable experience, right? It's going to take a long time or a whole lot of money just to put them in a situation to purchase a home, but it's rarely that.
Oh, that's way cool. I know from my experience, looking at a lot of credit reports, there's many times where we see somebody who's just not in the running, right? Maybe they need a down payment assistance program, or to your point, maybe the terms that we can offer because of where their credit profile is the rate's going to be too high, the borrowing cost significantly increases, and what they qualify is just it's not meeting up to what they need.
Right.
And so sometimes they're like really, really discouraged. I can't do anything. I'm down and out. There's no options. I'm going to wait a year, wait 2 years. I think that the difference or what people don't understand is that they can come and meet with somebody like you can evaluate the situation there. And look, we all have things in the past that were from our young and dumb days, right? We just didn't know. We didn't have enough education around credit. Maybe there's an old collection that when you were young, they told you, I don't pay that. It's not going to hurt you. But it's kind of hanging around. It's sold a few times. It's still on there. I think the cool thing about working with, a company like you guys is that you can identify, hey, we have a really good shot at this, or we've dealt with that creditor in the past. Here's the approach that we typically take. Maybe we
Right.
can settle. If we settle, we can potentially get it removed, but we can have these conversations with them and really try to, fix some of the things that were damaging in the past, where if you're left to your own devices without any kind of formal guide, if you will, that's kind of showing you the way, you might just kind of sit on it and say, well, at some point down the road, 7, 10 years down the road, it's just going to fall off my credit. I'm going to just kind of be in timeout for that whole period of time. That's a long time. And I think instead of just throwing your head in the sand, have a conversation. You guys don't charge anything for that initial conversation, right? I mean, you
Correct.
kind of work like we do. You're going to give somebody accurate info and go, hey, we can help you or we can't help you. Just realistic approach. Like we're never going to overpromise somebody. We're going to let them know, hey, this is something that we think we can do. This is the timeline in which we may be able to do it. Here's potentially the results that you may see, and here's the roadmap and what to expect next. And I like, what do you need on your side to kind of do that? You're just looking at a credit report and setting up a quick call so you can kind of take a peek at what they got going on.
Yeah, it really is simple. And even before the credit report, we just need somebody that's willing to have that conversation, right? And that wants to take good direction for us. I think that a lot of times when we're in these situations similar to you as a consultant in this scenario, it's that really what we're doing is we're just like helping you direct what the path is, right? So if you're willing to stay on the path towards home ownership and credit could be a challenge, our role in that situation is to say, okay, go this way, right? Or go this way. Here's what you should do. Sometimes that is free advice, right? Sometimes it is, listen, you're not exactly where you need to be, but you don't really need full credit repair. What you need is to do X, Y, Z, right? Pay this credit card down $150, right? Go close this account out, right? That is not helping you at all, which is very rare, but it does happen. Or pull yourself off of this person's card as an authorized user because they've overutilized their credit, and have Ryan repull credit and you're good to go. That happens a lot. Sometimes it is heavy lifting, and we say it would totally make sense for you to enroll in our program. Here's what it would cost, how long it will take. But all you need to do is just have yourself prepared. If you do have a credit report that's available from your loan officer, then that first call, we'll get right into it. We'll go line by line. We'll break down what it is that you're experiencing. And I feel like the most common thing that happens on that consultation, super consistent, is that somebody will say they will think that something large is what's impacting their credit the most when it's not, right? So somebody goes through a rough time. Let's say that they happen to lose a vehicle, it gets repossessed, and then they also have a year or two later, a couple of older bills that they couldn't get paid end up in collections. Well, once those collections pop up as a new account, right, with the new creditor that's purchased the debt, even if they are 1/10, 1/100th of the amount that that charged off auto loan is, right? That could be 15 or 20 grand. Those two or three collections are not only going to be easier for us to work with because they're most likely much smaller amounts, and they're companies that will be motivated to negotiate with us. They're going to have a larger impact when they're resolved than that old debt that might look like it's the big wound because of the dollar amount, right? So people get fixated on, usually what happens is when it's a large dollar amount, it's related to a negative personal event that's also happened, right? Which kind of brings up some emotion with it. And we're there to just right that ship to say, no, here's the great news. We can just leave that alone, right? Like literally leave that. If you want to handle it in the future, that's fine. But our goal really is to get you across that finish line so that we can get you back to Ryan, to your loan officer, and move forward with the home purchase.
And that's awesome. I actually really, really resonate with that particular statement that some people will focus on the thing that's so expensive and overlook those little items that maybe are reporting, more recently, not
Yes.
realizing that maybe that old one or that large one's very old and it's not having the same kind of weight on the credit, but because of the scale of it, naturally we look at it and go, whew, that auto repo for 12K, like that's where I need to focus my effort. When in reality, it's like the $100, medical collection or the $100, credit card thing that just went late from Macy's that you forgot about that went into collection. Like that's where your focus needs to be. And you actually get a
Right.
bigger lift on the score. It's one of the reasons why I think it's so important for somebody to first start with a consultation with you guys. Then, if it's a more heavy lifting kind of a service, they're not just getting the credit fixed, they're getting a full education. And this is where things really pay off, is because you're going line by line, you're teaching them something new, you're going to help them solve the problem that they have. But what they are oftentimes forgetting is generationally, they can now teach that to their kids, right? So their kids don't have those same mistakes. So that fee, whatever the monthly is, the service, whatever that time that they're with you, it pays 10 times as much in the future, in my personal opinion, because credit is used everywhere. And if you get
Mhm.
it wrong, you pay way too much for way too long. Your autos are going to cover, way too expensive on the borrowing cost and terms. Mortgage is going to pay, you're going to pay way too much. There's all sorts of areas that are impacted by credit. And if you get the stuff wrong, you not only pay more up front, but you're paying more in the interest and stuff anyways. It's far
Correct.
greater than the service that somebody like yourself is offering. So, I think there's more to it than just solving that credit. It's the full education behind it, which most of us are never taught. They don't teach this stuff in school. We kind of learn the
Right.
school hard knocks. Most of our credit is taught to us because we have a friend, family member that maybe said, "This is what you got to do with your credit." Now they may be right, but they could also be incredibly wrong. We've seen it where they're way wrong. They're giving the bad advice, right? You need to go to somebody like yourself who's a credit expert.
Yeah, I have to debunk some perceived truths or tricks almost on a daily basis. And one
I
of
would
the things
imagine.
you brought up is that it's easy for us to understand how close we are to the risk of paying more when we borrow with challenges with credit. Okay. The next thing that often is overlooked is that it's used in other places, right? Like if you're working to get hired in the financial field, they can legally pull credit on you, right? And if they see that you have challenges, they're going to assess you as an employee in a financial role specifically based on those things. The other thing that often gets overlooked because it's in the fine print, and I just did a quick post with my personal auto insurance where they sent a letter to me to say, hey, this is your reminder that every so often, I think they do it every 2 years, that we have the right to access personal information. And then in the details of it, they were talking about your personal credit, right? So even your auto insurance rates, your homeowner insurance rates are all being assessed based on your personal financial credit history. It absolutely is applicable.
That is massive, especially in a world where auto insurance is, rapidly here in California, at least it's rapidly increasing. So anywhere we can save a few bucks is warranted for sure.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Jesse. This is super helpful. I
Thanks
hope
for having
that
me, man.
people will reach out to you. We'll certainly be referring, folks your way so you can have those initial conversations and again determine which path you're going to take them. Is it a shortcut where you just give some quick advice, or do they need some heavy lifting and sort of a partner or a guide to kind of show them the right path? So we
Sounds
really
great.
look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Ryan.